And Sarwar, why are you raising this issue now?
Look, when this was said, it was during the leadership election. I didn't want to raise it then because I didn't want it to be perceived as me playing some kind of race card in the leadership election. I wanted to focus rightly on the future of the Labour Party and the future of Scotland. I didn't raise it in the days and weeks after the election because I didn't want it to be some kind of excuse, because it's not some kind of excuse about what the outcome of the leadership election was. But since the leadership election, I've been talking to friends, I've been talking to family, I've been talking to constituents, I've been talking to race relations charities around some Islamophobia work, and hearing directly from different people's stories about Islamophobia and racism and the impact it's had on their lives. And that's why we got together to create the cross-party group on tackling Islamophobia, which will launch in the Scottish Parliament tomorrow.
We'll ask you more about that in a moment.
As part of that, I was just honest about some of my own experiences.
And what did you feel like when that phrase was said to you?
I mean, look, obviously there's immediate shock and hurt. I couldn't believe it had been said to me. My initial reaction was to be taken aback. I then challenged the person on it, and the person made clear why they felt, based on that, they didn't think they could support me in the leadership election. They then later said that they were involved in pub banter, and that was why they'd said it. The point I'd made to them at that time was, I don't know what pubs you're occupying or who your friends are, but I think you should maybe consider that.
What do you want to happen to this individual? Would you want to see further action taken against them and the woman who made reference to your wife?
Look, I think the focus primarily has been on the elected member, quite naturally. I think someone in elected office having those views is particularly abhorrent, and that's why I've said that I will speak to the party tomorrow. I'll decide the course of action after discussing it with them. But I think the important point here is this isn't about one individual. It isn't about one organisation or one political party. And I don't want this to become about me versus him or about this individual. It gets dealt with whatever way it's dealt with and then it's forgotten about. What needs to be addressed is the culture here. And listening to people's stories that people have shared with me today, it's clear there is a cultural issue affecting workplaces across the country, affecting campuses, university college campuses, affecting playgrounds in our schools that have situations with everyday Islamophobia and racism. That needs to be the focus.
Is that anecdotal, or is there evidence to back that?
So there's a piece of research done last year by a researcher in Edinburgh, Samina Dean, who was working in partnership with Scotland Against Criminalising Communities, who did a study around students or pupils in Edinburgh, and that found that 55% of Muslim children that she had spoken to said that they had experienced some form of Islamophobia. And 45%, almost 50% of people said that they were scared to go to school the next day after a terrorist attack, particularly young Muslim women, those that wear a scarf. I think that shows you the extent of some of the challenges. Now, what I'd like to see through the cross-party group is more deeper research about the scale of everyday Islamophobia and everyday racism. But the point I'd also make is not everything that is Islamophobic or racist is necessarily a crime. So it's not something that someone's going to experience and then think they have to talk to police or think about talking to the police. Some people won't talk to the police when it is criminality. But a lot of Islamophobia, the majority of Islamophobia and racism, will be things that aren't criminality, that things that can't be addressed with the police, but still impact on people's life chances and life opportunities. So yes, I want the police to take stronger action when it comes to these things in our communities, but we have to look at the wider issues around it too.
And is it particular to Muslims, to Islam?
Well, the point I made today is I can't measure the scale of it. I mean, there are stats that have been found about the level of Islamophobic hate crimes, which shows that Police Scotland has the 4th highest in terms of number of recorded
And what do you
crimes.
think that would be for Islam?
I think if you look at global events, if you look at the rise of terrorism around the world, the rise of terrorist attacks have happened here in the UK, the fear of Islam that is perhaps perpetuated on social media feeds or in the media, it has perhaps created a climate of fear, and a lot of that hatred is coming across in the form of Islamophobia. I think that's probably one of the challenges.
So you've set up the cross-party group. So and you touched on it earlier. What do you hope to achieve with that?
Well, look, fundamentally, what I'm trying to say here is we accept rightly that there is everyday sexism in our society, that there is everyday homophobia in our society, And just like that, I want people to accept that there is everyday racism.
And you don't think that's already accepted?
Well, I think it's not really spoken about. It's not talked about. We don't have an open dialogue and debate about race, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, other forms of prejudice in Scotland in the way I would like us to. So I'm hoping through the cross-party group a few things. One, to give people a platform to come and share their voice and have the confidence of doing it with other individuals. Secondly, to engage with all levels of government, with our authorities, to try and see how we can create an adequate framework in Scotland to tackle everyday racism and Islamophobia, to tackle misrecognition. There are lots of people who aren't Muslims who are victims of Islamophobia because of misrecognition, to look at how our media behaves responsibly, and also fundamentally to look at how your job opportunities, your life chances are affected by race or Islamophobia. These are all things we hope to consider through the cross-party group.
And is there anything at a practical level, at a street level, for want of a better phrase, that could be done, do you think?
Well, I mean, one of the things I was reflecting on earlier today is we have moved on in Scotland. So I remember in 1997 being assaulted out election campaigning because of the colour of my skin. I remember being out with my friends as a teenager in Glasgow and having glass bottles thrown at us because of the colour of our skin. I think events like that happening less now, rightly, thankfully, happening less now. My fear is, though, that we have a transfer of racial hatred to forms of religious hatred, and perhaps more of an insidious, institutionalised form of racism and Islamophobia rather than that blatant racism and Islamophobia you see in communities and on our streets. And the other fundamental point I'd make is, if we accept that we have an issue with sexism, homophobia, racism, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism and other forms of prejudice and hatred within our society, then if political parties are reflective of society, it's natural that within those political parties you'll have those same issues as well. We've got to hold ourselves to a higher standard in the Labour Party, but I think all political parties do, about rooting out of political movements and organisations. But fundamentally, I want us to go beyond that. I want us to root out all forms of hatred and prejudice from our workplaces, from our college and university campuses and from our playgrounds. Because we all say Scotland is an open, diverse, welcoming nation. I fundamentally believe that. But let's not have a Scottish exceptionalism. There are good and bad people in this country too, and we've got to expose the hatred and abuse.
Sarwar, thanks for joining us in Scotland.
Thank you.